Today, I'm coming out publicly and exposing that Kipkalia Kones killed Mr. Salat. I do not recall the full names of Mr. Salat, but he was a brother to Nick Salat, the Secretary General of KANU, and he was the son to Isaac Salat. Isaac Salat's full name was Isaac Kipkorir Salat. In 1992, I had given my presentation to the task force for the TGRC headed by Professor Makau Mutua. I also gave a similar statement to the real TGRC headed by Ambassador Kiplagat. In both cases, I was warned of the implication of naming people, and I was told to be ready for cross-examination. Actually, many of the government commissions, you could be warned of that. And when you gave your full real names as the official names, then they would quote the person. But if you wanted your identity to be not known, then they could not mention that. They would just say a cabinet minister did this and that, what wajijazie. But if you gave the real name, and if you are told and you said that you don't want to be cross-examined, then your evidence was never taken into writing. So I was asked in those two and other investigative commissions which have been brought up by my Kibaki government, I was asked if I could disclose my full names and also if I were ready for cross-examination. In the two, Kipkalia Kones was told about my advance evidence and he chose not to cross-examine me. I even remember when I said Biwot killed Ouko, Biwot wanted to cross-examine. It was a parliamentary select committee where he used the late Mutula Kilonzo, senior, but when they were told about me, they chose not to cross-examine me. To start off how Kipkalia Kones killed this gentleman, we start with the father. The father had one eye, and people used to call him Moshe Dayan, because we had an Israel defense minister who was a general, was also a mono-eyed. Isaac Salat was very close to Moi, in that, you know, when Kenya attained independence, civil servants were also allowed to dribble into politics. So he had started Kalenjin, Kipsigis youth group, and they were allied to Kadu and such things. So that by around 1968, Isaac Kipkorir Arap Salat was placed in the Ministry of Office of the Vice President and the Ministry of Home Affairs. He worked directly under Moi. And then in 1974, he contested and won the Bomet seat. When he won the Bomet seat in 1974, 1978, when Moi became the president, they were close. He won the 1979, he won the 1983. Yeah, those are 3 terms, 74, 79, and 83. Those days, serving for 3 terms was a very long time. You will also discover that during those days, Moi surrounded himself with semi-literate and age mates from each tribe. Mulu Mutisia, Jenga Karume. When it comes to Kalenjin, there was Isaac Salat. When Isaac Salat had died, that is when Barngetuny took over. But if you look at that team, you'll find that Isaac Salat was relatively highly educated. One thing I noticed which was very funny about Isaac Salat was that even though he was reasonably educated, but Moi retained him as an assistant minister. The same to the coastal kingpin, who was Sharif Nasir. I remember when I was working for the intelligence that some backbenchers would go pay a visit to Isaac Salat, wanting to be appointed cabinet ministers. You are a backbencher, you approach an assistant minister and request him to facilitate for you to be appointed a cabinet minister. And when Isaac Salat would tell you, he would tell you, enda nunua battery mpya. What he meant is that you should listen to news throughout, and then you'll hear your name being appointed in the 1 o'clock news on the Voice of Kenya. So Salat was very powerful, and he was also popular. Yeah, he was genuinely popular on the ground. That one I can say without any doubt. And then around 87, 88, he developed cancer of the throat. He developed the cancer of the throat. He died in November 1987. He died in November 1987, just before the 1988 general elections. Having not groomed a successor, either biologically, because some people when they die, immediate family members take over their seat, or they groom political sons or daughters, political children. He never groomed any. And that is when Kipkalia Kones took advantage. When Kipkalia took advantage, the family was mourning and it was not organized on whom to take over. Kipkalia Kones won the by-election and he also won the general election in 1988. He was made a minister, some of these small inconsequential ministries. Then when he was made a minister for those small ministries, in 1990, Ouko died. For those who know, I was deeply involved in the Ouko case. So when Ouko died, some people were arrested, including Biwott. So President Moi saw that there was a need to relieve of Biwott his job. When he relieved him of his job as Minister for State in the office of the President, Kipkalia Kones was transferred from that non-script ministry into the Ministry of State in the office of the President. And you know those days when you stepped aside, just like George when he stepped aside to become Minister for Constitutional Affairs, he wanted the new AG to be to extend his power into the powers of the person who took over from him. The same applied to Nicholas Biwott. He wanted to control the Ministry of State in the office of the President. But Kipkalia Kones was very quick. Kipkalia Kones was very quick that he dismantled all power pillars of Biwott and placed there himself. Biwott was felt threatened. So he looked for several options, and one of the options was to make sure that Kipkalia Kones is not elected in the 1992 general elections. So he decided that he would groom one of the Salat's sons, and it fell on the late son who was killed in 1992. So Biwott really handled, and you know, being the Minister of State, especially those days, you did not have time to visit your constituency. So one time when the elections were approaching, Kones went to the ground and found, just as youths nowadays say, kwa ground vitu ni tofauti. He found that it had shifted and this gentleman was going to take over. So there was a sub-district, nowadays they call it sub-county security committee, then had the information that Kipkalia Kones was organizing for AK-47s to be brought from Uganda. The sub-county committee, or as it was then called sub-district, sat down and decided to raid Kipkalia Kones' homes. They raided and no gun was found. then they sat down, wrote their recommendation, forwarded it to the District Security Committee, which was forwarded to them. Then when the information reached Kipkalia Kones that his house has been raided, he got annoyed with the Sub-District Security Committee and transferred all of them to hardship areas, except the intelligence officer, whom, you know, in the meetings, he does not contribute. You can never trace his whatever. And then Isaac Salat's son, or Nick Salat's brother, was then shot, fatally shot in Nairobi. And the guns used and the ammunition used and everything was used fitted well with what had been received. The number of guns, the number of ammunition, everything was found to be equal to that. But that was around December 1992, and Moi could not take action against Kipkalia Kones because of what was happening in that general election. And that is how it was unfortunate that we all die, but I feel it is unfortunate that I was not given many of my presentations, especially things to do with political assassinations. I've always wanted a cross-examination. As an intelligence officer, I would advise anybody, cross-examination is good. It is not good for you, the witness. It is not good for the accused, but it is good for the justice. You know, when people cross-examine you and dig deeper into your mind, there are some information which you may have forgotten or which you may have overlooked, which can come out. In many cases, cross-examination usually assists in finding the real truth. It is unfortunate that Kipkalia Kones died before answering such things.